The Aramon beaches have returned, and so have I, rising from my grave. Should I resume Baki content on the channel? The break has gone on for too long. I'm already worse than Itagaki and his constant 4-month hiatuses after drawing just 3 chapters of Baki Do. Finally, the anime-only fans have been able to meet the primitive man, Pico, who has been very well received and accepted by fans who didn't know him. I'm really glad that people liked it. And even though I'm not a big fan of this arc, and in fact, it's never really caught my attention. When things go well for Baki, it's a reason to celebrate. I've never been too passionate about this arc for several reasons. The first is Pickle himself. I don't like him as an arc antagonist. Many people think I hate Pickle because of his crazy tricks. But that's not true. What happens is that Pickle isn't a warrior, he's more like a stray dog. Super, ultra, hyper, mega powerful. With a Homo sapien skin. Just like those damn Bolivians, so the animal abuse meme, the arc is totally canon. This saga revolves around autistic fighters setting out to defeat an extremely powerful yet peaceful animal. If you told me Pickle is an uncontrollable monster causing chaos and destruction, then let them take him down. But the kid just wants to lie around. Sleeping, eating some meat, and playing. He enjoys visitors coming to play with him. It just makes me uncomfortable. This whole thing, I know you can argue with me about it. With what? Precisely, that's the strong point of this arc. A pacifist character is repeatedly forced into deadly fights due to the pride of martial artists who challenge them. You're right, and I won't argue with that. Personally, I just don't like it when someone is provoked to fight when they don't want to. First of all, yes, later on, Pakura enjoyed the fights, but he enjoyed them because he saw them as an easy game. In most cases, taking him to Oppenheimer would yield the same result. Can you imagine? Pakuru, I like him. I think he's cool, he's kinda cute. Except when he goes all Nasha Pekanovich with the reporter. That was a very unpleasant scene. But Bruce, they did that to show that he doesn't act according to today's morals and ethics. Because he's a wild being and part of nature. Yeah, that's fine. But I don't know, maybe they could have stopped him in time or something. Broadcasting this internationally on television was unnecessary, especially for a 12-year-old kid to see it on the news. Like a primitive man, 2.5 meters tall, was doing crazy stuff to a reporter while eating his damn Choco Krispies. Although, come to think of it, I think by the time I was 12, I had already seen worse things on the internet. Definitely forget what I just said. When the Arambishis learn that a primitive, ultra-powerful man has been brought to the present, it utterly disrupts their lives. They now spend all their time trying to find and beat him up. It's like that video of the angry green tomato walking down the street. The Arambiches ambush Pickle in his small house. Inspired by the dinosaur age where everyone hid creatively without parental supervision. Waiting for the chance to come out, taking the prize for the most creative son of a bitch. Orochidopo allegedly spent a month inside a giant dinosaur plush toy, waiting for the right moment to emerge, causing us to never know from now on where Orochidopo might be. He could be hiding anywhere, your fridge, microwave, backpack, or even your mom. It's like playing FNAF, but with a bald, one-eyed, schizophrenic guy. And here, friends, is where I definitely realized that Baki is amazing as a comedy anime. In fact, Itagaki loves comedy. He sometimes makes cringeworthy jokes about sleeping with the elderly and mature bears, but often has a unique sense of humor. Honestly, I had never really paid much attention to the comedy in Baki, and I think it just keeps escalating. Starting from the Mr. Unchained arc, the comedy really took off. Watching the season on stream was hilarious. It had been ages since the community laughed so much with an anime. It was absolutely wild. Even the unintentional comedy was excellent. We could no longer take the series seriously from this point on. It's true that I read the manga back in 2019, but I rushed through it like a lunatic. I often forget things, and the forgotten details always surprise me. Pickle clashed with Yujiro in a controversial battle. The ogre underestimated the primitive beast, failing to anticipate his immense strength. He had to use an unusual technique to avoid being overpowered by Pickle, which is atypical for the ogre. There are people who say that, well, if Yujiro activates his back, his strength, and so on. But let me remind you that Pickle also has a berserker form, and here he would barely be using 10% of his strength. Yujiro, too. Still, Pickle couldn't beat Yujiro even in his dreams. I'll explain more in a future video. But brute strength isn't everything, both in fiction and reality. Yujiro's invincibility stems not only from his demonic physical strength, but also from a unique set of skills and mindset. As was already said a long time ago, many sagas ago, Yujiro is at the point where he's so convinced that he's the best and the strongest. It seems the universe has accepted him and is conspiring for it. The one-on-one battles start now with the first fighter being the best waifu in all of Baki. That's right, Retsukayo. I won't dwell on this fight too much. It was okay, but he couldn't even tickle the pickle. Retsu was destroyed by punches and then his leg was eaten. And guys, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I have to reveal the truth. Retsukayo Stumpy was never real, it was just an edit. I'm sorry, baby Baki was never real, and I'm not joking about this. The edit created a Mandela effect, with many anticipating Retsukayo Stumpy. While it would have been great, it didn't happen. Then if I recall correctly, Baki visits Pickle. He receives a powerful kick to the stomach, knocking him out. And Pickle makes a terrible, insane face. That Picklin. Wow, Picklin. Damn, Picklin. And then comes my favorite fight of the arc, which is Katsumi's. Katsumi. Orochi is a total prodigy, it's no surprise to anyone. He's the top karateka in Baki, destined to surpass the great Chinese Kenpo masters and Orochidopo, the god of war. Yujiro and Baki's supernatural abilities eclipse the immense talents of characters like Katsumi and Hanayama, showcasing their absolute incredibleness. Katsumi mastered the ancient Chinese techniques that enable reaching Mach 1 speed within days. Something that, in Kakukai's words, takes masters about 50 years to master. I speculate that Katsumi will create his own martial art in the future. Similar to Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, Katsumi perfected his karate with other martial arts, creating a new, deadly, and powerful martial art. He stood out not only for his fighting performance, but also when it came to his mother's. People misunderstood the situation. It wasn't that Katsumi abruptly ceased loving his adoptive mother to solely love his biological one. Instead, he told them both that they were his only mother, and that he loved them with all his life. Because he loves both of them equally and wants both of them to be as happy as possible, that's why he told them that. Katsumi displayed great maturity by forgiving his birth mother and appreciating both his biological and adoptive parents. It was a sublime moment, proving his capability when he desires. That fetishist bastard Itagaki writes well when he's not writing about peeing and those kinds of things he likes. The fight was formidable, Katsumi delivering blows so powerful that his body couldn't withstand them. But in the end, he was easily defeated by Pickle, who didn't even take him completely seriously. Despite everything, he also appreciated him as a rival. There was no unhealthy emotion this time. A beautiful detail from Doppo, not allowing the fight to stop. Even if it cost the life of his only son, just out of a desire to protect his honor. Wow, Doppo, when he's not mutilating random fighters, because, laugh out loud, he's an incredible character. I love you, Doppo. After this fight came the one I know you're all waiting for me to talk about, and that's Jack versus Pickle. Let's see, first of all, it was much better in the manga. Honestly, in the anime, it turned out a bit weirder, if that's even possible. Despite this fight giving Jack remarkable character development, especially with Baki's hospital meal gesture, it's unfortunate. The symbolic line where Jack asks God to let him win against Pickle for the first time stands out. However, I don't really like the fight itself that much. It definitely intends to be wild and all that. And yeah, for sure, Itagaki really managed to make the fight uncomfortable. But I don't know. The defense mechanism, resembling a wasp, was intriguing. But overall, the work felt insubstantial despite its few hits and odd concepts. And the fact that the most representative move of this fight is a wild kiss doesn't help at all. It's not that I hate this fight, not at all, but it's definitely not the best fight for Jack or for Pickle. At last, Baki would face off against Pickle, the prehistoric Argentine, in the long-awaited fight. Everything looked amazing, Harayama and Retsu. The tension was palpable in the stands as the fighters prepared for a gruesome, life-changing fight. It's the fight with the worst pace I've ever seen in my life, even as it is. Baki has an annoying habit of explaining every punch thrown, often referencing a fighting story or Japanese legend, which is lame. I'm sure a lot of people like this and I don't mind it, but damn, you have to know how to measure it. In this fight, Pico would throw a punch, and they'd explain that it came out of nowhere. When Piquel was young and I don't know how many, and then Hanayama would come in and explain something I don't even know. And then? Baki explains that it reminds him of when his father was screwing his mother. And then Retsu shows up with those damn sunglasses in that recording and proceeds to literally not shut his damn mouth the entire episode. I love you a lot, Retsu, but for God's sake, let's see if you finally go to sleep. Oh yeah, I forgot. He's already asleep, sorry. All in all, I didn't like this fight. Baki could have won several times, but his stubborn pride made him do some really unpleasant, stupid things. Moves that were literally unnecessary. Like when he climbed to the top of the stands and jumped down for no reason. It seems like Itagaki drew this part while completely high. Your understanding is limited and what you comprehend is unsatisfactory, leading to disappointment. It was hilarious watching it together on stream. But if I had watched it alone, I think I would have gotten pretty tilted. I recommend reading the manga for this arc. While the Baki anime isn't bad, it's not as good as the manga in this part. Let's hope they're saving the budget for what's coming next. By the way, you're all totally invited to watch the rest of the season. When it's released on my channel on the purple platform, I won't watch it immediately. I'll announce it on Twitter and during the live streams, when I plan to give it a try. And that's it, in general. This is my opinion. As I already said, this arc never really fascinated me. I think it's a pretty normal arc in Baki. I'd say it's average or slightly above, since the average arc in Baki is also pretty mediocre. But I'm telling you, even as a whole arc, this one is more intense than the prison arc, because the prison arc, until Oliva eats Guevara, it's pretty mid. Oliva is way more charismatic, epic, and interesting than poor Pickle. Remember, this is just my personal opinion. For more Odaki content, please support the video. See you next time.